Welcome back to PM Agenda. Joining me now is Grahame Morris and Bruce Hawker with me here in Sydney. Gentlemen, thanks so much for your time. Welcome back. Happy New Year, all of that. Now, Grahame Morris, thanks for leaving Wet and Wild for us. I really appreciate that. But your political observations over the break, of course, there was a bit of activity when it came to Jamie Briggs and Mal Brough and, Bill Shorten also out on the front foot in this election year.
Yeah, apart from all that, do we read that you've got a new program? What's it called?
I do, the latest with Laura J, 7 p.m. tonight. Thanks for the gratuitous
tonight?
Yes.
Starting tonight?
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations. Good on you. Look, I thought it was a bit of a break. We started with Briggs, then we had Brough, then we had bushfires, then we had Bowie buried, then we had the bombers blackened, and we finished with that New South Wales ALP buffet who lost his job. In between that sort of the political bookends, it was a bit of a political non-event. And I think on the eve of election, that sort of helps the government in that the opposition sort of did nothing.
Bruce, what's your view in all of this? I mean, we have seen Bill Shorten come out an early GST scare campaign. He's not getting too much traction yet, but do you think that'll all change once we do get into the year proper and we start to see those details put forward by the government?
Yeah, I think that's the big sleeper right now, the GST. If the government comes out and announces that it is going to increase it or broaden it or both, then it really is game on in a way that we haven't seen to date. Of course, they haven't shown any great signs of doing that, but it is an election year and they're going to have to make a call on it sooner or later. So even though he may not have made too many inroads on the issue as yet, I think he's doing the right thing. He has to get out there, get into the supermarkets, get amongst small businesses, just the general punter land and start saying what it'll mean if there is an increase in the GST, and let Turnbull, let Morrison respond and tell us what they would do.
Grahame Morris, there was some criticism of Scott Morrison over the break that he wasn't coming out and explaining the turmoil in the markets to the Australian people. Also seen in a paper in recent days that he's perhaps considering two packages, one that would include a GST and looking at negative gearing as well. When do you think we're likely to see the detail?
Well, look, I'm not helping to run the show anymore, but to me it'd be about August. And I listened to Bruce there, but, in the end, politics is comparative. If the government did go with a GST, I think the coalition would be saying, well, look, what is more scary? A GST that you know how it operates, or Bill Shorten and you've got no bloody idea how he operates? At the moment, that story is quite right, that there are a couple of packages around. I am, at the beginning of election year, in two minds, although I sort of favour, with this sort of margin that the Prime Minister has got, and I think, as of now, Bill Shorten would lose even more seats. But, I'm sort of tempted to have a go at a serious package that includes an increase in the GST, good compensation, some tax cuts, and get out there and argue it and fight for it. I think good leaders are at their best when they're fighting for something rather than just defending what they've got. And I think that will be Bill Shorten's problem.
I'll just let you interrupt.
Yeah, look, I just think that's a very dangerous strategy, really, from the government's perspective, particularly around those issues. If it's negative gearing, well, if there's one issue that might trump the GST as an unpopular one with the punters, it would be to do away with negative gearing, because that's a very significant part of the income stream now for a lot of mums and dads out there. So they've got that problem. On top of that, you've got the real prospect of people in a year when wage stress is very real, the stock exchange is going nowhere, the economy's flat, of increasing the GST in order to do what? Change other tax arrangements. It's just not a very attractive proposition, I would have thought, for the government. If they were to go out and say, we're going to spend all this money on health and education and give it to the states to do those things, like was being discussed once before, then maybe so, but not not if you're just going to fiddle around with tax arrangements. I think it'd be a very dangerous thing to do, even for a popular Prime Minister
and
like
Grahame,
Turnbull.
you flagged that we might see this detail in August, but are you suggesting then that all this talk of an early election is just all that, just talk?
No. Look, I can understand some geniuses who have never run an election campaign, and I've won 26 and Bruce has run more. Why people would say, oh, let's run to the polls earlier. But really, why? You know, what is going to change? You can't run before the budget because Labor would say, oh, what's in the budget, shock horror. You can't run before you've got the Federation out there, industrial relations out there, the tax package out there, and giving everyone, say, 3 months to talk about it and argue about it, which is about August, and you run to the polls in about October, which is normal. What's wrong with that? Otherwise, you just bring forward the period, whether or not it's October or in 3 years' time, you bring forward the time when you're in blinking opposition again. That's no fun.
And Bruce, there's a lesson here, isn't there? Because when Julia Gillard took over from Kevin Rudd, there was this whole question of legitimacy, and there was this campaign to say, oh no, she'll seek a mandate first, which, you know, gave it that no man's land. And so I don't think perhaps Malcolm Turnbull is looking at that period and learning some lessons.
He may, and I don't think he's under any great pressure to go early. I think he could go long. I think it's a question of what he takes with him, and this, of course, is the real problem for him in the medium to longer term. Like, what policies is he going to take to the electorate? Because at the moment, people like him. They like the feeling of him. He's centre of the road. You know, he sounds good. He makes people feel good, but what policies is he going to bring to the electorate? And if he's going to do some things which are pretty tough, then he does need 6 months to try to convince the electorate of the merits.
And Grahame, just on that, and you're talking about, yes, the normal timing of an election, there are a few issues here, the constitutional issues, which is he's not going to give himself a 2-year term effectively, and there's this whole issue of a reshuffle and the question mark over Warren Truss.
Oh yeah, but yeah, you know, I wouldn't be any hurry to do any of that either.
No.
You know, Warren will decide his future when he wants to.
He's good and ready.
You know, who said Warren's got to go soon? I don't think so. He's doing a good job.
All those constitutional issues are just another reason to go long rather than short.
Yeah, that's right. Now, Bruce, just quickly, I want to ask you about Jamie Clements. Should he have gone earlier? Who made the mistakes? And, you know...
Jamie obviously made a mistake. But look, he should have gone earlier. This was something which was brewing for months and months. And when you've been around politics for as long as Grahame and I have, you know that there's a certain inevitability about certain things. And this was one. The issue was not going to go away. There was too much unhappiness inside the Labor Party's head office in Sussex Street. It was being, you know, selectively leaked to the media. It was never going to stop. So he should have gone earlier. I think it's good, though, that it's been resolved now. We've got the first female party secretary in the history of the Labor Party. And, you know, she's got the front page of the Sydney Morning Herald today talking about further reform. So that's all quite positive.
Bruce Hawker, Grahame Morris, thanks so much for your time on PM Agenda. A quick break and we'll be back with more.